Hello, political candidates. Your campaign's website domain is an important factor in your website's SEO. It's crucial for your campaign website to include your first and last name. It gives AI models like ChatGPT an authoritative source of truth to pull from, helping to prevent the AI from hallucinating or picking up outdated information from third-party blogs or partisan attacks. So visit name.com today and buy your personalized .vote website address. Let AI be your friend. Your potential voters will thank you.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com. To run a successful business, you need one thing: customers. And how do you get customers? You get them through advertising. You get them through lead generation. But what happens if the leads don't exist or they don't have valid contact information? This is a familiar story all businesses deal with. Then they call these leads who don't exist, or they're bad numbers, or they're not in their service area. Argus 101 verifies every lead before your team picks up the phone. It's a real person in your area and a neighborhood that matches your ideal customer. Your team only calls people worth calling, thus saving you money. Free trial at argus101.com. That's ARGUS101.com. Help your business expand today. Go to argus101.com. ARGUS101.com.
Welcome to Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Jumping right in, as always, our first guest up today, Michael Sobolik, is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, specialized in U.S.-China relations and great power competition with a focus on geopolitics. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thanks. Glad to be here today.
Mike, let's start off with a fastball down the middle real quick. So China's doing a lot of political warfare against us. What extent are we retaliating?
None is the short answer.
Why? And why? I mean, because I know we're an open society, so it's a little bit easier for them to do it versus their closed society.
A lot easier, yeah.
Yeah. But why? What should we be doing? I mean, why aren't we doing it? What should we be doing?
So we're not retaliating because politicians value America's economic relationship with China. And to a point, you can kind of see how it makes sense because of the trade volume between Washington and Beijing, how integrated our supply chains are, how much we rely on China, and in some cases, how much they rely on us, although that's diminishing.
Right.
And I think, let's face it, Wall Street and Silicon Valley also have pretty strong incentives to access China's market. So all of that creates the situation where, from a national security perspective, the case for decoupling from China is becoming clearer and clearer. But it's not so easy to do that because there are very strong vested interests in what was the status quo, which is let's trade and integrate everything with these guys. So when you talk about disinformation and how to penetrate the information ecosystem of China, like we're not doing that at all, even though they're doing it to us, because we don't want to upset the apple cart of our economic interests with them. And I think the understanding is once you start doing that, then the whole tenor of the US-China relationship changes. It's no longer we can cooperate on this set of issues over here, but also compete on these other set of issues. Once you start crossing that line with the Chinese Communist Party, I think we're going to find ourselves in a Cold War, which I think is fine because China thinks they're already in a Cold War with us. We're the ones who are lagging there.
Well, I mean, for example, you had Trump come out a couple of weeks ago, this speech, China interfered in the elections. But I don't see us doing anything to punish them. And so, Xi's coming out. I mean, what are things we should be doing to counter this?
The first thing, which Trump had a great shot of doing this last year, and unfortunately he missed the opportunity, is to actually enforce the TikTok law that Congress passed. So TikTok, one of the most popular social media apps in the entire country and the entire world, its parent company, ByteDance, answers to the Chinese Communist Party. It's completely a Chinese company, and they are beholden to the interests of Beijing. So Congress passed this law basically saying, in the Cold War, we never would have allowed the Soviet Union to control CBS or ABC or NBC. But effectively, we've allowed China to have that kind of influence over American discourse and public opinion with TikTok, which more and more young Americans are turning to for news consumption. It's a huge problem. So Congress passed this law that said if TikTok isn't separated from its Chinese parent company, we need to ban it. The Trump administration did not enforce the law because of the political incentives of campaigning on TikTok. It's a great way to reach young voters. And that was the thing more than anything that convinced President Trump to flip-flop on the issue. Because in his first term, he was all in favor of banning CCP-controlled TikTok. But the deal that his administration struck leaves the algorithm in control, under the control of ByteDance, which is to say, China can still manipulate the algorithm on the app, which is not good. So the first thing we need to do is actually enforce our own laws. And that's the best place to start, but we're not doing it.
Shouldn't we be treating Chinese internet the same way they treat ours? In other words, they just do not allow U.S.-based internet services in that country unless they're deeply, strictly controlled. Shouldn't we be treating them the same way?
I would go even a step further. In some parts of their relationship, it makes sense to have that reciprocal tit for tat. Like if you're going to limit access of our journalists into China, then why would we let your quote unquote journalists that really just parrot state media like this, government talking points out of China? Why would we allow them to come into America? That context makes total sense. In the information domain, I think we actually need to be even more aggressive. The reason China has the Great Firewall and tries to siphon off its entire country from the internet of the free world is because the Chinese Communist Party is afraid of free speech. They're afraid of any political expression they cannot control, which is a weakness. And this is the problem writ large with American foreign policy right now. We're being too reactive. We're looking at all of these problems that adversarial regimes, not just China, but Iran, Russia, North Korea, all these problems that they've created for us over the past 3-4 decades. And we're in edit undo mode. And we have been for years now. I saw this when I worked in Congress from 2014 to 2019. What we need to do is go on the offensive. If China is really that afraid of free speech, then we should find ways in the cyber domain to weaken the Great Firewall.
Correct.
Yep.
By the way, I do find it funny how much the business community in the United States loves to focus on China, and they just sort of give...
Has anyone been really successful there as a U.S. business
Apple
long-term?
Stuff.
No, I mean long-term because they get all their IP stolen.
The thing that's always funny to me about the China focus is that we seem to skip over Central South America, which is a much English language barrier for us. And basically, most South and Central American companies have the similar or higher average per capita than China does. There's more money, disposable money down there. And we just seem to ignore it. I've never understood it. And I was hoping, I think Marco Rubio was going to focus on that. But then we had the Iran and some other things like that. So it's been interesting, but I don't understand why the business community has just really not gone and made an all-out push for Central and South America.
I think part of it is path dependency.
Yeah.
The decision to open the U.S. economy to China and to invite China into the World Trade Organization was one of the most consequential foreign policy decisions of the United States in the past 100 years. And unfortunately, it turned out to be a bad decision strategically. In terms of consumer prices, it's been amazing for not all Americans, but a lot of Americans. I think this is the corrective that the Trump administration, the president, and others like the vice president and even Secretary Rubio have made this case for a long time, that globalization writ large and engagement with China specifically, big, powerful corporations have benefited handsomely, and American consumers have gotten cheap prices out of it. But a lot of American industry has been hollowed out, right?
Right.
And that's a huge problem that we're trying to fix. But you're right, there are plenty of other places in the world that have cheap labor. And labor costs in China are actually growing now as their economy modernizes. But we're locked into this choice that we made many years ago, and uprooting those dependencies, very expensive to do. From a security perspective, I think it's vitally important that we do that in critical industries like tech in particular, and stuff like critical minerals, solar panels, renewable energy, particularly with
medicines,
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals is one of the most important. It's going to be difficult, again, because once you go down this road, eventually we are going to hit this tripwire that elected officials are hesitant to hit. Eventually, you got to make a decision about whether you are engaging with Beijing or competing with Beijing. And we've wanted to have it both ways. We're not going to be able to do that much longer, but we're trying to avoid that choice. And that's why things have this kind of stop-start, slow momentum quality to it.
How are our allies, let's say Taiwan and Japan, handling the defensive and offensive aspect of the relationship with China?
The Japanese are doing the exact thing that we've wanted our allies to do for a long time, which is to be more open and honest about the China threat. Their Prime Minister, Takaichi, has been incredibly blunt, and members of her administration, of her cabinet, have been very blunt as well, that the Taiwan issue is of vital importance for Japan. And all you have to do is look at a map and see how close the southernmost Japanese islands are to Taiwan. This is about trade routes for Japan. It's about economic security. And it's also about the credibility of American extended deterrence. It was no accident that you had senior Japanese officials recently talking about the possibility of nuclear weapons for Japan and why that shouldn't be a taboo subject. That was a signal for China. That was also a signal for the United States that they want to know that we're committed to deterrence and that we have their back. On Taiwan, I was in Taiwan a couple of months ago, and we met with a lot of members in the KMT party, which tends to be more pro-engagement with China. The previous time I was in Taiwan, we had a lot of meetings with the Democratic Progressive Party, which is more in favor of maintaining the status quo of de facto independence. And I got to tell you, Taiwan has got to figure out how to spend more on defense. They've got to figure out how to boost their percentage of GDP.
What's preventing them from doing it? I mean, what are they just saying? We need more domestic. I mean, I'm sure they have the revenue. So what is preventing it?
The domestic politics are very messy there, and China has a lot of influence, particularly in the KMT party.
Well, and they're heading down the trap that Europe did, where you're overbuilding your welfare state and your support state and draining resources. Also, it seems.
I think Taiwan has time to avoid that trap, which is the good news. They have so much agency right now. In so many ways, they're a model ally for the United States. They're investing. If you look at Taiwan's promised investment into the U.S. economy over the past year,
enormous,
and you look at it on a per capita basis, it eclipses investment promises from some of the biggest trading partners that we have in the world. And Taiwan is now one of our biggest trading partners. We are so reliant on Taiwan, not just for chips and the AI revolution, but they are doing everything to choose America economically, which is great.
They are certainly our closest ally, or have been recently in that region. We're going to be coming back with more here in just a moment. Stay tuned. Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone.
Folks, did you know that private student loans in the United States total about $300 billion? That's with a B. And $45 billion of that, again with a B, is in default or distressed. Y-Refi will help you private student loans that others won't touch. They will help you customize a loan payment that with your ability to pay that will meet your budget. This is not a faceless company. They'll go in, they'll help you refinance it. There's no credit check and reduce your monthly payment and guarantee an interest rate below 6%. So if you or someone you love has a private student loan and they're having problem making payments or are in default, contact Y-Refi at 877-400-9989 or go to InvestYRefi, that's YREFY.com, and let them help you today. Samuel?
Absolutely fantastic. We're continuing on now with our interview with Michael Sobolik. He is a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. Follow him on X at Michael, Sobolik. Michael, you had a great interview I watched last night. McDonald's, not microchips, new rules of trade with China. We've been talking about this a little bit. But if you were, let's say you ran and you were elected president, what would you put forth as a trade policy? Frankly, I'm at the point I think, we can trade farm goods, we can trade clothing, we can't trade tech with them anymore. We just can't go there.
I think the first rule of foreign policy is not to equip your adversaries, to not give your give your enemies something that they can't build themselves that they could then use to hurt you.
Right.
And as simple as that is, this is what we're doing right now by sending China these really powerful semiconductors that are all important for this AI revolution. They can't build enough chips for their own market, and they can't build advanced enough chips. So they have a quality problem and a quantity problem that is giving America an edge, and a very important edge and advantage in AI. But we're selling them really important capabilities because it helps the revenue stream for powerful American companies, which, listen, I want American companies to be competitive, but not at the cost of national security, especially if the customers who are buying these chips are connected to China's military.
Well, and specifically, a lot of that revolves around CEO Jensen Huang and NVIDIA. And, he strikes me as someone who ought to be more aware of the strategic implications of their business in China than he is. He seems to recognize it, but as you expressed in that interview, his view tends to be that, well, we just need to sell all the chips we can so we stay ahead.
Right.
That strategy never seems to work in the end with China.
The reason, you're right, the reason it never works is because the Chinese Communist Party always gets the deciding vote of what works or what doesn't work inside of China. And Xi Jinping has already decided that China is not going to be reliant on the West for the most important technologies of the 21st century. This is not a fight that we even have the ability to win inside of China. And recognizing that is not defeatist. Ignoring it is foolish and defeatist. I think
Correct.
That's the irony here. And listen, I don't begrudge the CEO of successful American companies looking to make their company even more successful.
Right.
That's what America is all about.
Right.
But we need to counterbalance all of those concerns with national security. And there is no credible way to make the case that selling these chips to China that they can't make themselves is good for national security. That logic does not hold up to scrutiny.
Well, realistically, and before we get on to a different issue here that I know Chuck wants to talk about, It strikes me there's two futures coming for this world. One in which China is the dominant nation, one in which the U.S. is the dominant nation. And those futures look extraordinarily different when they eventuate.
I want to go to the munitions question, but I wanted to add one more point to the conversation we're having here about China. What is India's position relative to China? I mean, how do they view their relationship with us versus China?
India is the swing vote on a lot of these issues when it comes to China and geopolitics right now. Not the swing vote in the sense of what they decide to do is going to determine the outcome. I think that's overstating it a bit. But India, if population trends, demographic trends continue, is going to be one of the most important countries over the next 100 years. They have a legacy of recovering from Western imperialism, particularly from the British. And that has impacted how they approach foreign policy. They don't want to be aligned, per se, with the United States. They certainly don't want to be aligned with China. That border they share has been hotly contended.
Right.
And Indian soldiers and Chinese soldiers have fought and died over that border. But India certainly wants to be a partner with America. And it makes sense. They're a huge democracy. We're the oldest democracy. And I think that the key for the United States is to cultivate that open door with Delhi and also get them to align with us on the most important issues of supply chains and technology, and where we can partner with them and make them part of that new ecosystem where we rely less on China for these things and more on, say, Vietnam or India for healthier supply chains.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes left here. So there is a shortage of precision missiles. It's been highlighted with the Iran war. I think we've known about this for some time. Some in the press are acting surprised by this, but you can all basically get this all online. What do we need to do, and what is the amount we really need of these precision missiles?
So the precision missiles, the Tomahawks in particular and others, we've burned through a decent bit of the stockpile. We're going to need orders of magnitude beyond what we currently have if we want to have a credible deterrent posture with China. It's more than just building that up, which is going to take time. We need to reconstitute the entire defense industrial base. Doing that is going to be tough because the economic incentives to do so will require government to make decisions to lock in that path dependency in a way that is bipartisan. It's one thing for one administration to commit to doing this. You need the next one, if they're of the other political party, to do that too. The good news is I see that happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to have to do this not just with the big contractors like Lockheed Martin, and Boeing, and Raytheon. We're going to need Anduril and the next generation that can make cheap, reliable, lethal weapons at scale involved in this too. And I'll credit the Trump administration. Steve Feinberg in the Pentagon has his head screwed on straight with this, and he knows what needs to be done. It's just a matter of executing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michael Sobolik. We really appreciate having you on the program. Folks, follow him on X at Michael, Sobolik. Breaking Battlegrounds is going to be coming back with more here in just a moment. You don't want to miss Bee's Corner, as always, one of our fan favorite programs. And then Vince Torres, Executive Director of America First New Mexico, coming up, talking about, frankly, a pretty well-contested set of races going on in that state this year, so you don't want to miss out on that. And as always, folks, before we let you go from this segment, please leave Breaking Battlegrounds a 5-star review. Wherever you get your favorite podcasts, we're on there. And if you're not downloading, you're missing huge amounts of great content every single week. We have additional guests. We have special pieces from writers around the country and around the world. Don't miss it. Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back.
To run a successful business, you need one thing: customers. And how do you get customers? You get them through advertising. You get them through lead generation. But what happens if the leads don't exist or they don't have valid contact information? This is a familiar story all businesses deal with. Then they call these leads who don't exist, or they're bad numbers, or they're not in their service area. Argus 101 verifies every lead before your team picks up the phone. It's a real person in your area and a neighborhood that matches your ideal customer. Your team only calls people worth calling, thus saving you money. Free trial at argus101.com. That's ARGUS101.com. Help your business expand today. Go to argus101.com. ARGUS101.com. Hello, Breaking Battlegrounds listeners. Did you know that private student loan debt in the United States totals about $300 billion? That's with a B. About $45 billion of that is labeled as distressed, which means people are behind on payments. Why Refi, who is a proud sponsor of our show, refinances this distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They don't even care what your credit score is. They provide you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. Why Refi is not a debt settlement company. They work with each borrower individually to tailor a loan that meets your specific financial situation and helps you pay this loan off. So, folks, if you would like to learn more how to put your mind at ease and your budget back on track, call Why Refi at 877-400-9989 and tell them Sam and Chuck sent you. You can go and look into them at YREFI, YREFY.com to get more information. They will help you reduce your monthly payment and guarantee interest rates under 6%, ensuring financial relief to you as you pay off your private student loan. Jump on that website or call them today.
Dear political candidate, listen up. I'm talking to you. Your Name.vote should be the starting point of every campaign. It's memorable, looks great on signs and mailers, helps voters find you online, and gives AI tools a direct path to your campaign website. Why send people to a complicated web address when your name can be the address? Visit name.com today and claim your .vote domain.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.
Murder, mystery, secrets untold. The truth gets set free when B gets a hold. Crimes where killers roam off free, or even ones where they get caught at the scene. From cold case files to headline news, she's breaking it all down just for you. So come take a seat, don't miss a beat. These crime corners where the stories go deep.
All right, well, as you know, the music signals time for murder, mayhem,
NB.
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 Yeah, those things are so dichotomous.
I know,
Like,
it's like a paradox. Like
it is a
opposing
paradox.
Things, but
yeah. So
that's
what
things.
sort of heinousness do we have today?
Okay, so this was a story that actually happened back in 1993 at the NBA All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City, and it was just solved because of forensic science technology advancing. So it started with Teresa Morlock. She was 35, and on February 22nd, 1993, she told a neighbor she needed a ride to find a man for her sex work. She was clocking in, as you could say. And later that night, she returned to her apartment with a man from Arizona who was in town for the All-Star game. The next day, a maintenance worker entered her apartment to repossess a microwave and found her dead. Investigators say there were signs of struggle. He ended up smuggling her and strangling her. there were also bite marks found on her neck and her thumb. So DNA was recovered from those bite marks, and a hair was also discovered near one of the bite marks. So for decades, investigators were unable to identify the person connected to that DNA. But then in 2025, there was a break in the case as new technology came about, and they looked at the evidence again. And the DNA initially led detectives to one of Peterson's relatives. This was James Wallace Peterson III. He's now 63. And so it linked to one of his relatives, but then it ended up linking to him because they spoke to him, interviewed him in Cedar City, Utah, and then right after they interviewed him, he was going to leave for North Dakota. But he also admitted to being at the Salt Lake City NBA All-Star game and to saying that he liked to drink and, just have conversation with sex workers. He just talked to them, And so...
Yeah, which is what most people do with it,
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So he moved to South Dakota or tried to.
He was from Arizona during the All-Star game.
Yep. And the police ended up arresting him in Vernal, Utah, 33 years after Morlock was killed. So he pleaded guilty to murder on July 27, 2026, so very recent. And as part of his plea agreement, prosecutors dismissed a separate aggravated assault sexual charge. And Peterson agreed not to contest a sentence to 5 years to life in prison because that sentence reflects Utah's murder sentencing back in 1993 when it existed, but today
5 years?
5 to life, but today it'd be minimum 15 to life.
So they go back to when the law was when he committed the crime?
That's what it said, and I think that's kind of crazy. I don't think that makes sense.
We need to dig into that. That makes no sense.
Well, there's probably actually a legal precedent about that.
Yeah,
there's probably a Supreme Court ruling or something.
Because actually, now that I'm thinking about it, so if something wasn't illegal at the time, the reason that would be is because if you had something that wasn't illegal at the time and then it's made illegal and you try to charge someone post facto, it's probably the exact same legal reasoning.
Yeah.
That's weird,
strange.
though.
But his sentencing is scheduled to be September 21st, 2026, so it's coming up, so we'll have some more details.
These cold cases are interesting. I'm going to tell you a quick story I've told before. So a former staffer of ours, Jessica, was an anchor or a reporter at Channel 4 in Utah. And so about 15 years ago, she goes, I need to find a way to break through to get an anchor's chair. So I said, well, you should start a crime podcast. And this is before podcasts even started. So we went through the cold cases in Salt Lake City. I mean, you can't believe how many cold cases
there are.
There's a lot. Yeah, even here. I mean, everywhere, right? So we found this case where a woman was found stabbed to death in her bathtub. And it was funny, the building was still there, and this happened in 1970 or something. And I remember us going up the stairs, and it was just eerie because you knew this had happened. It was just weird, right? I mean, the person's obviously gone, but it still felt weird. We went through it. We went through the crime report, and I said, the manager did it. And she goes, well, they interviewed him. That's nothing, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, we did it. 2 or 3 years ago, they arrested the manager in Florida. He had a crush, and she turned him down. And so right after the manager, he left several months later. Florida had been living there since, just a quiet life, and they arrested him.
Oh, my gosh.
So, if you ever want a good time, go through cold cases.
Oh,
yeah, Detective Warren on the case, baby.
Hey, right up
this
here, baby.
This is his crime corner now.
Locked in. But it was really interesting. But I'll never forget the feeling walking up the steps like, it felt eerie, like someone died here, right? Yeah. It felt weird.
Ooh, gives you the chills.
Yes. I remember that actually kind of feeling that way at the Tower of London.
Yeah.
Right? Like places where there's been that much blood spilled.
Jeffrey Dahmer's house. Yeah. We drove past his apartments a lot in Wisconsin, and it just, The
battlefield at Antietam when I was walking it one time. I mean, just like you could feel it around you.
Yeah, that energy.
Yeah.
You know it was there. It lingers.
Crazy stuff. All right, folks, we have another great interview coming up. Stay tuned. Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. We're continuing on. Our next guest up today, Vince Torres, serves as Executive Director of America First New Mexico. He has over 18 years' experience in New Mexican government and politics, previously served as Deputy Chief of Clerk for the Senate, Legislative Liaison for Lieutenant Governor John Sanchez, and Chief of Staff for the Senate Republican Caucus. And Chuck, as you know, those are great positions to really learn the bread and butter of your local state politics.
Absolutely.
And understand it. So Vincent Torres, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Vince, you wrote a piece which we have posted on our social media, and it's reported today by the New Mexico Sentinel, or I guess yesterday, that a third DEA whistleblower has come forward alleging agents were instructed to monitor and not seize immediately large fentanyl shipments going through New Mexico. I mean, New Mexico is not the safest place in America. Why would they allow this to happen?
It's a fantastic question, and I think that's the question that all of us as New Mexicans are asking. You know, the justification that we are hearing is that they were utilizing this flow of fentanyl in order to try to get to the bigger guys. But again, to your point, Albuquerque and specifically New Mexico are not the place to do that. We're already a state that's been riddled by drug abuse and just very, very problematic. Definitely lots of questions that we're asking, and it's unfortunate that we're finding about this after the fact, on the cusp of learning that yet again New Mexico continues to lead the nation in drug-related deaths.
Oh, my goodness.
I remember years ago during COVID, I was at this outdoor exercise class, and an engineer had been in New Mexico for 30 years and had moved to Scottsdale. And I said, so what was it? He lived in Albuquerque. I said, well, how did you like it? He's been out there 30 years. He was an engineer of the facilities, the defense facilities.
Los Alamos
out there.
or whatever, yeah.
And he says, well, you've seen Breaking Battlegrounds, haven't you? Breaking Bad, right? I said,
I've seen Breaking Battlegrounds somewhere, Chuck.
He goes, I've seen Breaking Bad, right? I go, yeah. He goes, well, that's Albuquerque. So that's pretty sad. Let's talk about school choice in New Mexico. So you have charter schools there, you have magnet schools, open enrollment, but no ESAs, no vouchers. What's going on there? Do people want it, or is it just a hard pushback from the Democrats?
It's both. People do want it, and yes, we have hard pushback from the Democrats. I'm sure you all have seen the recent polling on this. It's a 70-30 issue kind of at the low end, but when you just target parents, it's like an 80-20 issue, and it crosses the political spectrum with Democrats, even independents, really, really supporting that. And that's certainly the case here in New Mexico. But to your point, we don't have any sort of school choice here outside of just the public charter schools that are doing some fantastic work, but we have no tax credits, we have no ESAs. And right now, we're still fighting to get our governor to opt into the federal education tax credit so that we can have something to offer parents more opportunities to put their kids in the schools that they want.
Vince, you know, this is often framed by the left as being some sort of sop to wealthy, upper middle class and wealthy parents. But the truth is that the people who benefit the most from this, and there's now studies all over the country on this, are actually the people in the lowest income quintiles. So like in New York City, for instance, people in the bottom 20% of income, their children who won the lottery to go to a private school or a charter school with their system, the rate of incarceration for those children dropped 100%. 100%, not just the academic achievement, but every part of society benefits from these type of educational options.
Absolutely. And you bring up a great point. I mean, I always tell folks that the affluent already have their kids in the best schools.
Right.
But what we are seeing is that disproportionately, in a positive way, we're talking about a great impact on minority and low-income families who don't have that opportunity, who are essentially doomed to a lesser quality education just by virtue of where they live or how much money they make. And so our point is simple. I don't care whether you're wealthy or not. Every parent should have the ability. Every child should have access to a high-quality education. And we need to be empowering parents with more opportunities to choose that for their children.
Well, and one of the reasons I think educational choice, both Chuck and Vince, is so important right now is, look, the world and society in general is getting more complex. Specialization is becoming a greater and greater need. People who are very skilled in particular areas succeed at extremely high rates. These type of options give kids the chance to pursue those paths for themselves and decide what they really want to learn about, right? And then that creates amazing new opportunities.
Absolutely. I think the one-size-fits-all approach has failed us. And I'll just speak, from the perspective of New Mexico that consistently finds itself last in the nation, in most places 51st in education, even behind the District of Columbia. And it's not because we're not investing. New Mexico is spending more money right now than it ever has on education. In fact, we've increased our education spending for K-12 by over 80% over the last 10 years, even though we're serving roughly 12% fewer students due to the number of kids who are pulling out and either homeschooling and going into private schools. And so, yes, in every other sector, we encourage greater access. We encourage competition because it leads to greater success and greater quality. And I don't see why we would want to take education off the table, which is one of the most important things that we could be focusing on, especially right now.
Well, I just looked it up. New Mexico spends approximately $19,000 per student annually, which is above the national average. I know Mississippi's $12,000.
Utah's still lowest, right?
No,
or they were right at the bottom for a long
bit.
time. But the point I like to make there to people is this. So New Mexico is at 19, right?
Right.
You're getting great results for less money per year from ESAs in Arizona and
Correct.
Florida. You're getting better results from charters, from private schools, from all these other institutions that now cost less.
Mm-hmm.
There is no amount of money that changes the outcome in these one-size-fits-all public schools at this point. We're seeing in New York, Washington, Chicago, where they're now getting upwards of $30,000, $40,000 per kid per year, and their results are as bad. The results are terrible.
And that money's not even going in the classroom. So tell us this. What is the plan, Vince, to get ESAs and more school choice available to families in New Mexico? Is there a plan? Is there an initiative? Is there bills? What's going on? Tell people at the back what's going on.
Well, we have bills every year, sponsored primarily by our Republican legislators, and I'm sure those bills will continue to be introduced. But we truly do face an uphill climb here, and it is because of the political environment and the impact of the teachers' unions here. It's just a very, very, very difficult task. So absent, some major political change and a more favorable political chessboard on which to play, that's where the president's education freedom tax credit is so important for New Mexico right now, because this is money that isn't taking any money away from public education. It's not state dollars, these are federal dollars, and it would give to New Mexico families and students some form of school choice to be able to take that money and invest it, yes, in private school tuition, but also there's so many other opportunities for you to use that funding for tutoring, for transportation, for aftercare services, supplementary education services. And so while the political environment here at the state level may not be feasible for us to do something with it right now, that federal education tax credit could truly be a game changer here. And we're talking about roughly $200 million with modest expectations available to New Mexico over the next 3 years if our governor opts in.
Vince, you're executive director for America First New Mexico. What is it going to take in the next 4, 8, 12 years to start turning that tide in New Mexico?
I think it's already turning, to be honest with you. And New Mexico, I know it's widely regarded to be a very deep blue state, but the reality is New Mexicans are very moderate. We still have a swath of traditional Democrats who don't embrace socialism and some of the radical ideas of the progressive left. In fact, even just yesterday, I was noting that voter registration, for the first time in my lifetime, Democrat voter registration in New Mexico just dipped below 40%. Just for some context, in the early 90s, Democrats made up 60% of the electorate. And as of yesterday, they're down to about 39.8. So they've been bleeding voter registrations. Republicans have been holding steady, somewhere between 30 to 35% of the electorate. But what's really happening is we have this growing segment of independent or declined to state voters. And I think those are the folks that are really going to dictate change moving forward here in New Mexico. I don't think people are buying in to the radical ideas of the far left. And I think that's why you have so many folks moving away from the party and moving either to the Republican Party or to the DTS voting bloc. And so I think that tide is already turning. It's just a matter of when it's actually going to happen. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel that there was hope for my home state. I'd be doing something else. But New Mexico is going to flip, and it's only a matter of time.
I just out of curiosity, because we're seeing this here, we broadcast obviously out of Arizona. We're seeing this here with our larger tribal reservations, where there's been a lot of political turmoil there lately. And what were really solid, deep blue areas are now starting to pull back because they're realizing that the Democrats say lots of things that they want to hear, but then don't deliver. Is that same sort of dynamic at play in New Mexico as well?
Absolutely. So rural New Mexico has always been pretty conservative. But I do think you are seeing some major changes in the metro areas of Albuquerque and Las Cruces. And it's in response to exactly what you said. These are people who say things to get elected, but when they get elected, it's more of the status quo. And the reality is Democrats here in New Mexico have essentially run the state for the last 100 years. And there is nothing that we can point back to and say that has truly been successful. We continue to lag behind the rest of the nation. We're number one in everything that is bad. We are essentially last in everything that is good. And so I really do think people are looking for other opportunities and other options. And I think that's where the America First Policy Institute has brought just some incredible ideas that are really common sense, that just focus on, again, policies that put the American people first. And that's what we want here in New Mexico, good policies that put New Mexico first. We're tired of progressives running these, crazy pieces of legislation to accommodate the desires of their radical, environmental groups and some of the other folks that are out there that truly, in the end, will only hurt New Mexico. And so, yes, it's absolutely true here that Democrats are promising, but they're not delivering, and it's time for a change. And I think people are ready for that.
What's going on there with the energy sector? Because obviously it's kind of the home of nuclear science, but also I don't think a lot of people realize New Mexico has a fair amount of oil and gas.
Absolutely.
More than a fair amount. I mean, we are just behind Texas. We are proud to be, energy, providing energy for the entire nation. Our oil and gas industry is so important here in New Mexico, not only for the purpose of providing power and energy for New Mexico and the rest of the country, but when it comes to our budget, that's the only reason New Mexico has managed to stay afloat, is because of the royalties that we receive from oil and gas. And so I'm one of the people that believes that if New Mexico really wants to be successful and perhaps get to a place where we are as successful as some of our surrounding states, we need to embrace that this is who we are. This is our opportunity. And to your point, it's not just the oil and gas. For those who are into renewables, we have plenty of wind, as you all know. We have plenty of sun here, just as you do in Arizona. But you also brought up another point. I mean, our brain trust here on nuclear energy is unmatched. And so you want to talk about the cleanest form of energy that we can produce. Let's have that conversation too.
Well, so I don't know. I'm asking, I admit, Vince, I'm asking this out of pure driver self-interest here in Arizona. Are there any refineries in New Mexico for gasoline?
No, so we pump it here and then we send it to the refineries.
Okay, we got to team up with these guys and get a refinery there.
Arizona, New Mexico don't have their own refinery, so we count on other states. It's sort of
weird. We have
to
buy from California, and our prices are $1 a gallon higher.
Absolutely. No, yeah. All we need is the political leadership and political fortitude to embrace what we have available to us, and it could be a total game changer for us. I'll bring up one more thing that's largely attributed to the oil and gas industry that a lot of people don't understand or know about, and that is the fact that we're sitting on a $75 billion endowment permanent fund here in New Mexico. A lot of people think we're a poor state. We are not a poor state. We're a very poorly run state. But the reality is we have in our coffers right now in excess of $75 billion that we call our rainy day fund. But that's money that is just sitting there. And I think a lot of people are asking, why are we sitting on that while we are widely regarded as one of the poorest states in the country? Why aren't we using that to invest and to do greater things? And what more could we do in the oil and gas sector in order to continue to grow that? I mean, the possibilities are endless here. We just need the political willpower in order to move forward.
So let me ask you this question. We have 1 minute. What needs to happen for conservatives to win more offices then in New Mexico?
I think we need
Go ahead.
I think we need good quality candidates to step into the political arena. Candidate recruitment is always an issue here. But I also want, the rest of the nation to recognize that New Mexico is on the cusp of something truly radical here. And when New Mexico breaks, I think it's going to create a ripple effect that perhaps will be terminal for the other side, especially for the radical left. You have the highest, the only Hispanic majority state in the country. If you can flip Hispanics here in New Mexico, it becomes yet another blueprint for how you do that in Arizona,
Correct.
In Texas, in Nevada. And I think it creates this ripple effect. So I would encourage anybody who's listening to this, pay attention to what's happening in New Mexico, because when New Mexico breaks, it will have a major ripple effect, and not only here locally, but across the Southwest.
Yeah, absolutely. Vince Torres, thank you so much, folks. Follow him on X at Vincent Torres NM, Vincent Torres, New Mexico. 100%. That should be one of the great states in the country, just economically rip-roaring, absolutely gorgeous. But folks, before we let you sign off, make sure you're downloading that podcast. You don't want to miss all the extra content. And when you are, make sure you give us that 5-star review. Breaking Battlegrounds back on the air next week.
Sam and I are always talking about being prepared, whether it's hurricanes in Florida, earthquakes in California, flooding in Arizona, or supply chain disruptions.
Exactly, Chuck. When pharmacies shut down, it does not matter how tough you are, you still need access to critical medicine.
That's why we trust Jace Medical. The Jace case comes with 5 life-saving antibiotics and key over-the-counter meds, so you're covered when things get disrupted.
And Jace goes beyond just the Jace case. They also offer first aid kits, daily prescriptions, and long-term nutrition with Jace Pantry. Don't wait for the next hurricane warning or natural disaster. Take control of your health and peace of mind today.
Visit jace.com and use code FUTURE at checkout for $10 off your order. That's FUTURE at JASE.com.
Dear political candidate, listen up. I'm talking to you. Having an exact match domain like yourname.vote isn't a luxury, it's campaign basics. It's easy to print on yard signs and mailers, easy for voters to remember, helps people find you directly, and gives AI tools like ChatGPT a clear source for campaign information. So why settle for a long patchwork website address when you can own your actual name with a .vote domain? Visit name.com today and claim your personalized .vote website address.
Hello, Breaking Battlegrounds listeners. Did you know that private student loan debt in the United States totals about $300 billion? That's with a B. About $45 billion of that is labeled as distressed, which means people are behind on payments. YRefi, who is a proud sponsor of our show, refinances this distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They don't even care what your credit score is. They provide you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. YRefi is not a debt settlement company. They work with each borrower individually to tailor a loan that meets your specific financial situation and helps you pay this loan off. So, folks, if you would like to learn more how to put your mind at ease and your budget back on track, call YRefi at 877-400-9989 and tell them Sam and Chuck sent you. You can go and look into them at YRefi, YREFY.com to get more information. They will help you reduce your monthly payment and guarantee interest rates under 6%, ensuring financial relief to you as you pay off your private student loan. Jump on that website or call them today. Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest is Alexa Lavoie. Is it Lavoie?
Lavoie.
Lavoie. And she's actually from Montreal, but she just got back from a little territory that has been the buzz for the past week. And do they pronounce it Ceuta? I was listening to some videos on it, and I heard 6 different pronunciations on 6 different videos. So how do they pronounce it there?
It's Ceuta, but
Ceuta.
I know that the English are saying Ceuta and the Moroccan are saying Septa. So you have all kind of pronunciation.
Well, we're Americans. We don't pronounce anything right. So you can't pay attention to us. But yeah, I heard the first thing was English, and it was like you said, but it's been different. So anyway, it's basically a territory of Spain. There's about 80,000 people there.
Yes, exactly.
And so then over a week ago, there was social media saying that a reading of the Spain Supreme Court and went on social media saying, come on over, which is how people interpreted it. And about 80,000 Moroccan, mostly young men, crossed the border in a hurry. Could you take us from there? What happened? Are they actually gone? And how do the people there feel about this?
Yeah, so you're right. At the beginning of July, the Supreme Court have ruled that you can't do any more hot return if the people are arriving by the sea. So that was at the beginning of July. When I spoke with a lot of illegal migrants, what they actually told us is they saw a video mainly on Instagram saying that the border was open and to go and get their paperwork and their citizenship. We don't know who posted those videos because I know those accounts. It's mainly on and like anywhere. How I say it, like there is nobody behind. It's just like a picture, random picture. We don't know if it's the government who actually encouraged the young men to cross over, because we need to remember something. Moroccan believe that Ceuta and Melilla are Moroccan land. they call those land Moroccan occupied territory. I'm pretty sure that the king feels the same way, and there is a battle that is existing between Morocco and those two small autonomous territory that is part of Spain.
Well, Spain, so it's like all things territories in the old world. You had the Turks, I mean, you had the Romans and the Moors, and then Portuguese had this, and then Spain took it over in 1580, and then the early 1600s, those enclaves basically voted to be part of Spain. Is that right? So this is not like this happened recently. This is old history.
It is, and the thing is, it never been part of Morocco, because if you look at the history, Morocco actually got their independence and everything after that, the Portuguese and then the Spanish got it. So it never been part of the Moroccan land. It always been on the North African side. But to come back of why they actually all crossed in the same time. First of all, I spoke with a lot of them, and they say that mainly not only the king of Morocco kind of encouraged this in a way, but also the Moroccan police facilitate them to cross over. So this is what they told us.
But why did they do that? Is it high unemployment, youth unemployment there? So they're sort of saying, hey, greener pastures over here. Is that sort of what happened?
This is, again, very complex. So I think in one side, they wanted to flood Ceuta and Melilla with a mass wave of immigration. It's not the first time that this is happening there. In 2021, 10,000 of them have crossed the other side. It's a kind of tool that the King of Morocco is using to put pressure on the European Union and Spain, saying, hey, at any time, we can use our demographic and just flood you with like young men who will come and create chaos into your territory. So that is one thing. And the other thing is the older young men who have been promised to get citizenship, better life, work, and etc. When it comes to kids, I saw a lot of kids, unaccompanied kids, 13 years old, 14 years old, and simply their parents just say, go over. They will take care of you. They will give you education. They will give you care because you are unaccompanied. So they cannot return you. So they use that. And then once they get in the country, they get their paperwork. Now they will be EU citizenship. Then they will be able to bring their family over. So it's a kind of like scam to use immigration, but in a really, really disgusting and vile way to exploit children who literally had nothing. Like some of them had no shoes and they were like searching for food and stuff. I find that pretty outrageous. But what I was able to see is like some of the Moroccan citizens were crossing legally over to give money, food, and assistance to the people who crossed illegally to keep them in Ceuta, to say don't live, like, because what the government in Ceuta are doing is they are not providing too much to them in order to them to return voluntary in the Moroccan side. So it's why in Ceuta people are crossing and making sure that they are staying.
So do you think this is a power play that they want to just take this territory away? Or is it just like, I have all these young men, they have no future per se, let's have them go over there where the European Union will take care of them? If you were to guess, what do you think it is?
I think it's now they are using Ceuta as the entrance to mass immigration to mainly invade European countries.
Okay.
All the people that I saw, and it's not just because of the Moroccans who crossed 60,000 of them in one day.
Right.
Because a couple of days before that happened, another crisis happened to the other side of the the city, at the Benzu border. Many thousands of Africans crossed into Ceuta. We talk about Senegalese, Nigerian, Sub-Saharan, Yemeni. So the other side of the island is all African people, all men, all Muslims. I spoke with all of them because I was thinking maybe we will see Christian. We know that a lot of Christians are being persecuted in many of those countries. No, all Muslim men, all about 18 to 30, 35 years old. And so they had to close the border there. And then a couple of days after, the crisis happened at the opposite side with the 60,000 Moroccan who crossed. At the moment, they say, oh, the situation is almost back to normal. Almost 95% of them are back in Morocco. This is not true. This is not true. There is migrant facility who are hiding to the public, who is on the back, close to the border. It's packed with young men, with some of the women, kids. There is also like other people who are living among the people. It's not in central Ceuta where all the tourists are. There are some who are walking around and begging for food and money and etc. Mainly it's in the back of the city, close to the border. It's where they live in the bush, the mountain, and the people over there who are mainly Moroccan living in Ceuta, who give like assistance, food, and help them to stay. But people need to understand already in Ceuta, the population is half Moroccan and half Spanish. So it's already...
Is it half American in Ceuta?
It's almost half. Some people who are living there, who are citizens, they say half of them is Moroccan.
You mean Moroccan? They're Moroccan. Half
Moroccan.
Half are Spanish. Okay.
Exactly.
What's the official language there? Is it Spanish?
It's Spanish, but there is Arabic. So if you go close to the central, it's mainly Spanish. If you go a little bit down back to the land, it's mainly Arabic mixed with Spanish.
Well, that's amazing because it's not that big of a territory. I mean, how quickly could you drive across it?
Less than an hour. It's really small. It's very, very small.
Well, the numbers of people still there are not surprising because when you read about it and the Spanish said, well, we've sent them back. You didn't send 60,000 people back in a day. There's no way. It's sort of like this Cambridge professor said he ran 30 marathons. Things just don't add up. So for the people you talk to, are they upset about this? Are they fearful this is going to happen more? How's it affected their lives?
Oh, boy, everybody knows that this will happen again. And talking to those illegals, they say, oh, but if they are returning me, I'm coming back. Like, I have no place to be. And it's 50-50, I would say. Some people are really like, we need to help them. They cannot find a job. We need to be human and everything. And others are just like, it's our safety. It's our city. We are losing it. And the thing is, military and police cannot arrest the illegals. They cannot arrest them. So this is happening. They are crossing over. Police and military are tied. They cannot do anything. Some of them will be probably returned back, but they will be back in a day. The thing is, it's not going to stop. And now I think the European Union have announced millions of dollars to provide assistance and aid for the people who cross illegally. The mainstream media are trying to paint the narrative as, the poor victim. But the thing is, this is literally an invasion. And this is an abuse of the immigration to flood the European countries. I'm sorry, but when you have like thousands of them, military and police didn't identify none of them. None of them have been asked for passport, identity card, or any information, and they are free to walk where they want. So we saw already some boats leaving Ceuta with illegals to go to the mainland. And we saw also at the bus station in the mainland, police checking passport and IDs to make sure that the people who are traveling are not illegals coming from Ceuta.
Right.
We are about to see an increase of influx coming from those islands. Not island, but those territories of Spain. Why? Because first of all, now they know that the border is weak. They know that the military and the police cannot do anything.
Right.
They know that they have the the Supreme Court ruling on their side. They know that they can be processed because a lot of them have told us that some of their friends, family, relatives have already crossed illegally, and they have been, they actually they received their citizenship and now they live in Spain or other places. So they say, but if they were able to do it, I would be able to do it. So, and I saw some of them, like, they are not poor. Like they have nice clothes. I met, like, one of them is an influencer on Instagram with like 230,000 followers. He has like a lot of video with nice cars and nice clothes. And so this guy is not in a bad situation. It's just, I think it's the whole system are saying like, hey, just come. You're more than welcome to live your country where you don't have any rights, or you will be in a free society. But why going to a free society, a Western civilization, who has really different values than mainly Islamic values and cultures, and then imposing those cultures? Because I spoke with them and they all agree that I was not dressed properly, that they will live in Europe, and they will bring their culture and their values and their faith, and they will not want their kids to share the Western values and eat the Western food and dress like Westerners. They already admitted that. So if people don't understand what is coming to us, I think it's time to wake up.
I agree. Well, Alexa, anything else? Any other insights before we let you go and let you go home? Any other insights from there that you want to share?
I think it's time, like, that the European Union are doing something about it, because Pedro Sanchez is literally allowing the invasion of European country. And people need to understand that those people will not stop in Europe. They will come to Canada, because Canada have weak immigration policies. And as of right now, a lot of people can enter by flight, turn themselves into a refugee, quote unquote. And then I know that there is, at the moment, a lot of illegal entry at the southern border of the US. I know it because I'm following those accounts. It's happening every day where people cross into the US. Mainly, Americans are focusing on the north. I made a mistake.
Southern border. We're focusing on the southern border.
So you're focusing on the southern.
The northern border. They're coming across the northern border. Yeah.
So I think the US have a lot of people who are crossing illegally at the northern border at the moment. Yeah. I'm following what is happening, and mainly either is the Mexican cartel or the Indian one or the Turkish one. We have from all backgrounds, and they are all trafficking people. Indian, Turkish, Mexican. It's crossing every day to the US. And I think Americans should wake up, because stop focusing on the southern. That we know now that you're dealing with it, and I think it's pretty safe now. But your northern one, it's not safe.
No, we talked about in the show quite a bit. It's a big border up there. There's not the the forces that we have on the southern border is something we need to do and something we need to work with Canada on. Alexa, how do people follow you? How can they also contribute to help fund these trips?
We have a migrantreports.com. That is our special website. I will put our mini doc that will be available at the beginning of next week. People can donate to help us to offset our travel expenses. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Ribbon News. That is always like the way that you can follow all our reports. And I think it's important that we don't just focus on our own country, because most of the time, what is happening to other countries, we can see that this is our future that's coming to us.
Yes, I agree pretty much. Well, thank you. We're glad you're back safe, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
Thank you so much.
This is Breaking Battlegrounds. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Obviously, we're on the podcast portion, and if you are listening and you haven't given us a 5-star review, do you hate us?
They do hate us if they
don't.
They do
hate us if they haven't done that. You got to give us a 5-star review. We're on wherever you get your favorite podcast, and you just need to take that second on your phone to go click on there and give us that 5-star review. Amen. It helps us stay on the air. It helps us continue to do this show and help bring you all the content you're enjoying. So please take that moment. And next, we have Alex Welz, a friend of the program, Senior Research Associate for the Middle East and North Africa at the Heritage Foundation, engages with critical national security issues across the globe. So, Alex Welz, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Alex, give us the synopsis of the Iran war. How is it affecting energy, the Strait of Hormuz, pipelines being built? Give us an overview. Let our audience know what's going on there.
Sure. So what we're looking at right now, and we want to make one thing abundantly clear here, is that the war is being fueled not by munition shortages or talks of this or talks of that, but Iranian intransigence when it comes to negotiations over the strait. Allegedly this morning, we were told that a deal is very close with Oman. Have you heard that before, gentlemen?
Yeah, the problem is they just say it too much. They just need to be quiet till it's done. That's my 2 cents on it, but continue.
No, you're right. But allegedly, ships are now going to be able to enter. This is the concept of a deal. Enter the northern route through Iranian waters and then exit through Omani waters. Again, we'll see what happens. Also, reports today that Iran is hoping to condition a toll-free Strait of Hormuz on sanctions relief. So this is something I don't envision President Trump going for. But we'll see. But in other news today, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed a joint defense agreement, which is quite a drastic step here. It merges, we're talking the Muslim nuclear power, the custodian of the Muslim holy sites in Saudi Arabia, and the only Muslim NATO power together amid the Iran war. That is not a coincidence. But I also want to talk about some efforts here that are being undertaken in the region to try to circumvent Tehran's belligerence. There's a pipeline last week, a deal that was an agreement has been revived to bring back to life a pipeline called the Kirkuk-Benias pipeline between Iraq and Syria. This would allow Iraq to export some of its oil, not just solely to rely on the Strait of Hormuz anymore, but to export that through Syria to reach Mediterranean and European markets, which is a large step. We've seen Saudi Arabia has circumvented the strait largely by an east-west pipeline that ends in Yanbu, and they go up through the Red Sea into the Suez Canal to reach Mediterranean and European markets. So this is a path. This was actually the pipeline, this Kirkuk-Benias pipeline was shut down by the Assad regime in the 80s and deprived during the Iran-Iraq war when they sided with Iran, and it deprived Saddam of billions of dollars in revenue. So this is a strange reversal, a historical reversal, where now it is being revived at the expense, potentially, of Iran and Iran's ability to deprive global shipping and energy markets.
Alex, I want to talk about this pipeline here going through Syria. How long would that take to become operational? And what are the financial benefits for Syria on it?
Sure. Well, it's a great question. Estimates are this will be a long-term project. This will be years, but it is important for the concepts of a plan here to begin being built out. And even Lebanon has offered part of its territory, its Tripoli port, as a branch of this pipeline to, again, help find Iraqi and other Gulf oil to to see European and Mediterranean markets. There are economic benefits for Syria here. There are it'll create jobs. There are certain fees that they will accrue and will charge for pipeline to travel through its territory, and some port access as well, and port costs. So it's a great move for Syria. It does show that amid all the hoopla of the Iran war, there is a regional architecture here that is being built, and it is playing out in the interest of America and American interest. Chevron is part of a consortium that has agreed to begin thinking about this and reviving it. But there's a lot of things. There's financing that has to take place. There's geographical surveying, and there are real security concerns, obviously, still in Syria today.
Sure.
That would render this pipeline uncertain, but it is a positive step.
So, talking about these pipelines, how has the war on Iran changed the dynamics of the Middle East regarding exporting oil, coalitions being built? How has it changed long term because of the moves President Trump has made?
I think Saudi Arabia is a wonderful example. Saudi Arabia has endured attacks from Iraqi Shiite militias aligned with Iran and the Houthis, who are an Iranian proxy. And there's more reports out now that the IRGC is actually has a sort of command center in Iraq, in which some of these we've seen drones and missiles launched at Saudi oil installations and energy centers. The Houthis escalated again last night. They attacked the recognized Yemeni government, as well as striking Saudi Arabia again, and they're tightening their grip over the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, south of the Red Sea. So there are massive implications here for the region, for energy. But again, these efforts and underlying dynamics that are trying to pass over Iran and Iran's grip, even though we have enforced an effective blockade over the Strait of Iranian shipping, and we maintain that the Strait is open. The United States does. It's obviously Iranian threats, belligerence, and at times often attacks have forced regional actors to find alternatives.
How do those regional actors? I mean, it seems like Trump is committed to his engagement with Iran, but there doesn't seem to be any understanding of what it would actually take at this point to knock out that regime.
Is it possible to knock out the regime?
Is it possible to do it?
We don't know. And I don't want to speak for the administration or the military tactics that they're undertaking to force that sort of an effort. All I can speak of is that the Iranian Navy is crippled. The Iranian economy is crippled. Iranian leadership has been largely decapitated. Masoud Pezeshkian, the president of Iran, said a couple days ago that it is, quote, very difficult to talk to Mujtaba Khamenei. So there's clearly a disruption in communication with leadership in Iran, and you have different actors, some more hardline than others, who are advocating for different positions within the Islamic Republic. And at some point, perhaps President Trump thinks nature should just take its course with this and continue to strangle the Iranian economy. But as far as military tactics go, I'll leave that to the experts on that.
So here's the one thing that pops up to my mind. I think Trump does not get credit for, and sometimes it's by accident he's done it. So, for example, on our munitions, because of the Iran war, it has highlighted the shortage we have in munitions and that we don't have a very good military supply infrastructure, correct? I think the one thing here that would surprise a lot of people when they say Iran's not a threat is, well, just look, they still have all these missiles. I mean, we've literally bombed them to hell. A normal country anywhere else would be done, correct? But then you have a regime who, fantasizes about the end of the world. I mean, how much do you think we underestimated, every intelligence service underestimated the military and missile capacity of Iran that they've stocked up on?
Well, I'm not sure about underestimation. What I do know is it is not Iran at it alone here. Russia has continued to prop up Iran politically, diplomatically. There were reports that China was set to deliver up to 400 shoulder-fired defense systems via, ironically, Pakistan. I mean, that is right. These are some reports I've seen. Pakistan is allegedly supposed to be this neutral mediator in the matter. So it has not been the Iranian regime alone. I mean, they are propped up by some fairly malign actors in the world that are hoping to inflict deleterious effects on the American economy, political system, and force posture in the Middle East. This is not Iran alone.
All right. Regarding the migrant surge in Morocco into Spain, what are your thoughts on it, and will this happen again? Will we see this again here in the next year or two?
I don't know. I certainly hope not. The Spaniards deserve much better, and they deserve a government that is willing to stand up for borders and national sovereignty.
Right.
But it does go to show, it comes on the heels of a Spanish Supreme Court case, which said that migrants going to the territory can't be summarily returned, and they have to do that. So a lot of this is the Spanish government's own doing. And when your posture is welcome, 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 and when 60,000 people expect to be welcomed, and you declare a crisis, that's what happens. This is the natural repercussions of. And Morocco has to do more to demonstrate its cooperation on this front as well, obviously. And there's an investigation underway to see what the underlying causes of this and what the impact will be. It appears most have returned to Morocco. But this was not. 80 people we think drowned. This is not a costless endeavor.
It's a travesty.
So this
it's a travesty.
Can't happen again, and it shows the weaponization of migrants, and or even the rhetoric. We saw this on our southern border when Joe Biden welcomed migrants and Kamala Harris welcomed migrants to come, even though it didn't reflect the actual legal framework at times that they could just flow in. Oftentimes they did. But just the sheer rhetoric of welcome, welcome, welcome posed a big problem. And it motivated a lot of people to make a very perilous and dangerous journey.
I have a last question here for you. So if I went and if I just got elected to the Senate, or I got elected to Congress, and I said, I'm going to go see Alex Welz about the threats we're facing, what's a greater threat to U.S. national security? The chaos in the Middle East or the growing chaos in Northern Africa?
Oh, well, certainly, I think there are far greater implications in the Middle East for energy markets, for core national security concerns. I think the Middle East is a different beast. But, of course, North Africa matters. Migrant surges coming from Libya and Morocco and Algeria. Algeria is still fairly close with Russia and China and a prime energy producer. Libya is in the middle of a civil war. Sub-Saharan Africa has seen a lot of upheaval with governments, and it foments a lot of chaos in the southern realms of these North African countries that further destabilizes them. But it's certainly between our partnership with Israel, the chaos in Lebanon, the upheaval in Syria, energy markets in the Gulf, attacks stemming from Iraq, the Houthi. It is just an endless game in the Middle East, and I think that's where a lot of the attention between those two theaters should be focusing on.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we really appreciate having you on the program. Folks, Alex, you can follow him on X at Welz. That's WELZ. Alex, fantastic as always. We very much appreciate having you join us.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Alex, talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, great interviews today.
Unbelievable, yeah. Look, we get the best guests on this program. It's amazing.
Here's the thing. I don't want any war. I want us purely to focus at home, and that's also makes me a crack addict because it's not possible.
No.
It's not possible.
No, look, we have real foreign adversaries, and I think the biggest problem in the country today is we don't understand what that means.
Well, I think the American people just don't want to understand it.
No, we've had a lot of years of effective peace. Even with our foreign conflicts, those really haven't touched the country that much.
Well, the thing about the foreign conflicts, which no one ever wants to talk about, the Tucker Carlsons and so forth, is the fact that we've had those has not come to our shores.
Speaking of which, Tucker has lost his ever-loving mind.
Oh, he is. Speaking French, he's just batshit crazy.
You know what I had fun with the other day? He literally had this giant rant about how lending money for interest was usury.
And then he had a mortgage company
and then he read a mortgage ad.
I don't know if he's just gone crazy or not.
I kind of think he has.
Or has he always been crazy? I talked to a person who knew him at the Daily Caller. Considered him a friend then. They don't talk anymore. And I said, what do you think's happened? He goes, Chuck, in reality, he was always that way, but at Daily Caller, he had these investors that kept him in line. So now he's off on his own. He has 300,000, 400,000 subscribers that are paying, what, $6.99 a month?
Whatever, yeah.
He just says damn well what he wants to say.
Right. It's sad because when you have a voice like that was gaining in legitimacy and then it goes off the rails to this degree, it's like...
Well, it's like this. He teams up with people like Congressman Massey.
Right.
Which I'm still waiting for him to read these Epstein...
Oh, Massey's a useless prick
on the House floor. He's not going to do it.
No.
Because he's a coward.
Because there's not the there that all these people have promised.
And there can be no intellectual movement if Marjorie Taylor Greene is part of your intellectual circle.
The 85 IQ isn't contributing?
No. So anyway, folks, we hope you enjoyed our guest today. We hope you'll share the show. You can get us wherever you get your podcast, Substack, Spotify, yada, yada, yada. Brennan's shaking her head along with me. She's agreeing with me, which I love the support. Thank you, Brennan. On behalf of Jeremy, Sam, Brennan, who's always just so nice, and myself, have a great weekend.